We love everything that's been going out with like AI. I think it's another one of those inflection points. Like I think humanity has been like bookmarked by these inflection points, like agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, the digital revolution, now the artificial intelligence, and all these inflection points. There is a certain level of uncertainty, in the air, and I think that w- in all those inflection points, human value hasn't been decreased. It just changed where we place value. And so when we look at artificial intelligence, we see a massive opportunity for, virtual assistants or executive assistants being like the gateway drug, so to speak, of introducing artificial intelligence in your organization if you haven't already. We just started our learning and development department, and a big focus for that department is to equip people with these AI tools, not only on the latest tools, but how to research new tools, how to do prompt engineering, how to create agents, right? So I think that our focus now should be on developing super VAs or super EAs that can wield these new modern tools, right? I think that they pair hand in hand.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by my friend JP, who's a friend of mine from Dan Martell's elite coaching community. And this one's interesting. JP also owns a virtual assistant staffing company. And honestly, I'm really glad that we're going to connect and talk because I feel like I don't have other guys that I can bounce ideas off of. And he's doing something a little bit differently, and I'm interested to learn more about what he's up to. So, JP, my first question is always the same. Just tell us a little bit of a story. Tell us how you got to where we are today.
Yeah, awesome. And Andrew, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I always like to talk with other people in this industry. I think everybody that I speak to has an abundance mentality. So sharing what's working with one another is always something that I gain a lot of value from. So thanks for having me on. Yeah, man. So I started the company about 3 years ago. I'm born and raised in Guatemala, and part of my professional background has always been around international teams. I used to be the learning and development manager for one of the biggest call centers in, the world, and they had a big footprint here in Latin America. And I got a chance to see the arbitrage model, right, of how businesses could take advantage of talent outside of their shores and save money on labor costs without having to compromise on the quality of the talent that they can find. And when the pandemic hit and everybody was, now more getting used to the remote work environment, this is an idea that started like brewing in my mind. And it wasn't only until like a couple of years after I stopped working for the call center that I decided to you know, do this whole company to provide high quality jobs for people back in my country of Guatemala, but also help business owners find amazing talent. So that's a little bit of the story of why we're here.
Well, tell us a little bit about the company. So it's called Meteor, right? And you guys do offshore talent, right? And like what types of businesses do you serve? Do you guys have a niche? Do you have an ideal client? Like what types of roles do you normally fulfill?
Yeah, so we focus right now primarily on virtual assistants and executive assistants. We used to do multiple different types of roles, but we we enjoyed doing these roles a little bit more, and they have, I think, a bigger ROI in the businesses that we worked on. In terms of the types of companies that we worked on, we actually are like not tackling a particular niche. We work with small businesses, typically under $10 million in revenue, under 25 employees. And we've worked in manufacturing, we worked in construction, property management, real estate, e-commerce. We tend to do a lot in property management, home services, and coaching and consulting. That's, I think, what the majority of the businesses that we worked on, but it's less about the industries and more about the problems that they're trying to solve. And I guess that the major problem that businesses that we work with that are trying to solve is, like Dan says, right, buying back their time, thinking about how they can clear their plates so that they can focus on higher leverage activities inside of the business. Going back to that theory of constraints, right? Like, what's the one thing that if I tackled, it would level up my business? And so that's a little bit of what we focus on, and try to pair the right talent to the companies, and not just take like a shotgun approach to hiring.
Let's talk about the hmm, you know what I'd really like to pick your brain on, quite honestly, and you don't have to share more than you're comfortable sharing, but the pricing model. I feel like with virtual assist, that's actually been really tough for us to tackle is figuring out how to price our services. So do you guys do like walk us through like your pricing model or whatever you're comfortable sharing, and then I'm going to ask you another question about something else.
Yeah, yeah, no, not a problem. I think that I'm super transparent when it comes to pricing. I think that when we decided on our pricing model, we were attempting to make it a win-win-win, right? Like, obviously we want to be profitable, and the more, business that we're able to drum up, the more people that we can find jobs for. But we also wanted to have significant savings for the businesses that we work with, and also at the same time provide as like a higher salary for people in this country compared to like a market equivalent, for example. And so an important distinction to make here, Andrew, is that we are technically an employer of record, which is where the name came from. Oddly enough, an employer of record is called an EOR. And so Meteor was sort of like a play on words with the name, right? But we don't hire contractors. What we do is that we hire people on our payroll, and we do payroll, taxes, benefits, and all that kind of stuff. We take on the legal responsibility, but on top of like the pay, they get medical coverage. They get additional bonuses for Christmas and summer. They get access to professional development centers and national theme parks so that they can take their families. So our pricing includes a lot of those elements too, like the benefits on top of it. We charge a flat EOR fee of $500, regardless of how much you want to pay your virtual assistant. We've seen models that are based on a percentage, and I think that the percentage one often punishes business owners who want to like promote their virtual or executive assistant, because it's like, hey, I want to like promote them, but like I don't want to have to increase my service spend because like you're doing the same thing. So we charge that like flat fee. And if you want to like promote them, like we don't increase our rates. And a lot of what we do beyond that is like pass through, like if you want to send them gift cards or bonuses or commissions and things like that. So that is a little bit of how our pricing model works. Everything is embedded into that one monthly rate, our fee, taxes, benefits, what they getting, and also like conversion rates, right? Because we have to pay them in their local currency. So yeah, no, like the last thing is that for each deal that we do, our intent is to save 40 to 60% on labor costs compared to domestic hires. And for the employee, we want to pay anywhere between 10 to 20% above market average. And that's sort of like where we find our sweet spot.
Talk to me about Guatemala. I don't know anything about it. People in the Philippines where we recruit from, very task oriented.
Hmm.
There's something interesting about the Philippines, man. They're very, I don't know if the word is submissive, but they just kind of like want someone to tell them what to do, you know? And so talk to me about the people, the work ethic, of Guatemala, and what's unique about, getting an employee from there.
Yeah, and by the way, for all your listeners, if you've never been to Guatemala, I would definitely add it to your bucket list. It's a beautiful country. But in this context, right? I think like, look, all countries have their pros and cons, and like you said, in that call center that I talked to you about, I also had team members from the Philippines, and yeah, one of the things that we noticed is that they also tend to be very hierarchical, right? Like, so it's all about like order or decision making coming from above, right? In terms of Guatemala, there's a few things that we highlight, right? We still have like an average cost of living that's 60% cheaper than the United States. It's a very young population too. Not a lot of people know this, but about 70% of the country is under 30 years old. So like very young workforce. I would say that in the virtual or remote workforce, the two things that we like to highlight is that we have both a physical and a cultural proximity to the United States. From a physical standpoint, like a plane from Guatemala to Miami is shorter than Miami to California. Like we're very close geographically. Yeah. And so like when it comes to like working on your same time zone, which was like some of the people that we work with that used to hire in the Philippines say that time zone is a bit of a challenge because you're either working at off time zones or you're having people working against their biological clock, which sometimes, there's some inconveniences around that. So there's a physical proximity to the United States, but there's also a cultural proximity to the United States. I think we tend to be a little bit more westernized in nature. I mean, I like to think of myself as a little bit of a case study. I was born and raised in Guatemala, but grew up watching the same TV shows, listening to the same music, rooting for the same sports teams, even though the Suns break my heart every year, right? So I think that when it comes to relating to clients, vendors, internal team members, it is an easier integration. And also for like client facing roles or roles that require negotiation or having someone be autonomous in the roles and be proactive and have that little bit of a spark. I think that is some of the advantages in looking at Latin America and Guatemala in particular. Customer service is also a very strong suit. So putting them in front of clients is something that they won't be a stranger to, and they actually enjoy service or having a service mindset.
Hmm, I love that. Let's talk about AI for a second. Um,
Yeah.
how are you kind of embracing it? And then where do you feel like you could be using it that you're not?
We love everything that's been going out with like AI. I think it's another one of those inflection points. Like I think humanity has been like bookmarked by these inflection points, like agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, the digital revolution, now the artificial intelligence, and all these inflection points. There is a certain level of uncertainty, in the air, and I think that w- in all those inflection points, human value hasn't been decreased. It just changed where we place value. And so when we look at artificial intelligence, we see a massive opportunity for, virtual assistants or executive assistants being like the gateway drug, so to speak, of introducing artificial intelligence in your organization if you haven't already. We just started our learning and development department, and a big focus for that department is to equip people with these AI tools, not only on the latest tools, but how to research new tools, how to do prompt engineering, how to create agents, right? So I think that our focus now should be on developing super VAs or super EAs that can wield these new modern tools, right? To like, I think that they pair hand in hand. You I think that there's value in like what humans can still input into an organization, like judgment or taste. These are things that still like they're lacking a little bit in like standalone AI solutions. So I think that if you, I don't know, like if you play them in concert with one another, I think you get the best results. But you should be looking at both. I mean, like what is going to get displaced is specific responsibilities. I remember when a big thing in the job descriptions for virtual assistants was taking meeting minutes and sending summaries after like a call. Now we have like, Fireflies or Fathom, like, and they don't miss a single word. So like there's no point on doing that kind of stuff. So the mindsets have to evolve. And so a lot of principle based thinking, a lot of like you know tool analysis and knowing how to like learn about new tools and implement new tools. But it's definitely an interesting time for this industry, and I think it's going to be a positive thing for the industry.
For you guys personally, where do you feel like you could be using AI that you're not?
You know what? I think that the most I think is on automation of workflows. I think that whenever we're talking about like things that are routine or mechanical in our business too, but also in our clients' businesses, I think that there could be way, way much more done with like automation or automating workflows. I think that that's one of the things that I really like about your value proposition, that it's like how do these things pair one with the other. I work with a company, they're called Red Fox here in Guatemala. They help us with our automation, and we just work on like one project every like quarter. But that project saved us so much money. And I'm like, why don't I do more of this stuff? Right. Like, so I think that automating mechanical or repetitive tasks inside of an organization is something that I'm going to continue to optimize for, and what I'm going to like push or encourage my clients to do so as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about some of the stuff you've implemented from Dan Martell. So, what are some of the big takeaways you've had from the coaching and the book and the community?
Well, a lot of like on the personal side, I think that I typically don't feel that comfortable being in front of a camera. I like these kinds of dialogues and conversations. But I think that like creating content and all that kind of stuff as an entrepreneur is something that's very new to me. And so like just navigating that world is something that I've found in this group. Um, but yeah, I think that also things inside of my business is like how we think about virtual assistant adding value. So the replacement ladder, for example, or the buyback principle, for example, um, or just how to do a time audit and start determining which tasks you should be delegating. All those practices, mechanics, the camcorder record, like those are all things that we sort of like morphed into our own VA hiring playbook as well. So I think that I take a lot from that group as an entrepreneur myself, but also like he preaches our message a lot, I feel like. And so we implement a lot of the best practices that he's learning running his companies. And that's how we want to prepare and train. Like a lot of the tests that we run, like test projects for skills assessments, are in some way, shape, or form motivated by those practices. I mean, like that's why I have the book right here in my background. I don't know if you can see it, right? But definitely something that's a huge influence in what we do.
Uh, what is what were your guys' overall sales last year, and where are you guys trying to go as a company?
So what we're trying to get to is we want to be able to give at least 1,000 jobs to like have like 1,000 EAs or VAs by 2030. I think it's a very, very attainable goal. We've been doubling every year. I think that we're about like 35 MRR right now. And last year at this stage last year we were about like 12. So that's a little bit of our finances.
That's great. What's one thing we haven't talked about today that gets you pumped up, gets you excited?
I don't know, man. I think what's getting me excited right now is learning. Like the training department that we're putting together. I came from a learning and development background. There's not a lot of excitement roles inside of a call center. I always used to say that in this entire company, being in the training team was like the most rewarding part, because even if you're like a call center rep, which is never a permanent role for anybody, the learning department has an influence in you as a person because it'll teach you skills. And I think that everybody in a professional context should be striving for skill acquisition. And so having that engine in my company and getting that started of like teaching people new tasks, skills, concepts, I think that for me gets me really excited. So I think that there's a learning and development component should be added in every company that is around virtual assistants or executive assistants, I think. I don't know if you agree, right? Or if you have something similar within your company. I know that a lot of the learning might be for like on the owner side, correct? On your case?
So what we've been doing, JP, is we've been doing the cohort model. So we'll find, and what I try to have is about 10 EAs every month that we are taking through different types of AI tools. So what one thing that I would like to transition to that it sounds like you're doing is ongoing monthly trainings for everyone you've placed. I don't know if that's what you're doing.
We're gonna be doing. Yeah, no. So that's not something that's in place now. We're doing the learning for prospective hires and then current hires as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I I love my cohorts, and I personally have my hand on that. The crazy thing with AI though is every 3 or 4 weeks there's an innovation or update or something, and it's hard to keep up with. Um, so, but broadly speaking, my vision is, so my company, I have Freedom AI, which does AI implementation, and then the VA is the driver. So it's kind of like it's a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, because sometimes the work just needs doing, right? So you need the executor, but you need the infrastructure behind it. I think that that's a super, complementary model. I really like that about your setup. You're right. I mean, like this AI stuff, like I don't know, like if you think about like the gold rush too, like of when that was happening, like it also gives a lot of room for like fake gurus, or like you have to be careful also of like everybody's like I remember like in the gold rush they used to have like this pay like you would pay for like bags of dirt that supposedly had nuggets on them. And I feel like every time I go on LinkedIn, somebody's like selling their automation or their bot, or DM me this, or I created an AI. Most of it is just like a curtain in front of ChatGPT. And so like discerning the right tools versus the wrong ones or the right people to follow is also like an interesting part of this dynamic. But so I'm sure you're curating the right type of tools. That's a big part of like what do you introduce your VAs to?
Yeah, totally. Okay. If people want to learn more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
So right now, the new Instagram page is jp.forno. I think that that's the best way to like connect with me individually. I have, resources and stuff like that for VAs and EAs, but our company is trymeteor.com if anybody wants to check that out. Those are the main two places I would say.
Well, I do want to figure out some sort of partnership with you because we get a lot of requests for Spanish speakers. And so, yeah, would love to have that as an offering. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. I had a lot of fun. Don't go anywhere because I want to chop it up with you. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Andrew.